So, Scholar can parry. Not like Wilder's Buckler Parry. Or Executor's Cursed Sword deflects. But a parry that can cancel out a large amount of enemy attacks, especially annoying and threatening ones. And it definitely has an equal, if not greater amount of both utility and aura farming potential. Scholar's parry is activated by using his Analyze skill, and using his self-buff option, RT for Xbox, R2 for PlayStation, and Control plus left click for PC. Once the circle is completely full and the white crosshair is visible in the center, here is what it looks like. Doing so will increase your maximum stamina by 40%, and encase you in a bubble that lasts for about 1.5 seconds before shattering. When hit by most enemy attacks that aren't a grab or status effect, the bubble will shatter, dealing 300 magic damage, staggering the target but not leaving them open for a critical hit, unless it breaks their stance. Here is what it looks like. This parry will render Scholar immune to one instance of damage. If an enemy has more than one hitting attack in a combo you interrupt, or multiple hitboxes, then you will cancel the first instance, but still take damage from the later attacks unless you have room to dodge. However, it is the explosion caused by the bubble that interrupts the enemy's attacks, and it works on enemies that are quite large, such as Adele. Caligo, and even the nameless King's Dragon. However, be careful of enemies with long weapons, such as Mog, Erdtree Avatar, and Fulgur on occasion, as they will sometimes not be staggered due to the bubble explosion's smallish area of effect not reaching them. However, there is still use if the bubble does not stagger your target. Since the bubble negates damage for a single hit, you can very easily use this on large area of effects that do heavy damage if you are not confident in Scholar's reduced iframe dodge. Great examples I've found include Eolsters and Meris nukes, which will be shown later. Plus, the bubble lasts for 1.5 seconds, so you have a modest amount of leniency with your timing. Here is an example of negating the damage of a large AoE. According to Yui, the stance damage should be the same as a charged heavy, and I've found no other information about this online, but the stance damage feels very minimal to me. I'm no stance damage expert by any means, but it might just be very small amount, or the enemies I've tested with just regenerate it all too quickly. Scholar's parry is also affected by magic attack power-up relics, which stack with one another. This video will hopefully serve as a demonstration of counterplay to some field bosses, night bosses, and night lords, and I highly encourage you to experiment with finding your own different attacks to parry. This will not be a video showcasing every Scholar parry, since that would take too long, just ones that I think are very valuable and or cool to pull off. I will also be showcasing interruptible moves first and then moves you can negate through second. The mod I am using to practice bosses is called Boss Arena, available on Nexus Mods, and linked in the description. All in all, I believe this ability provides much more utility than people would think, and it's definitely extremely fun to pull off. Since this is my first time properly editing a video, please turn on subtitles to see more information that I will not TTS over, so you can learn the audio cues. Now, I will be showing a few Scholar parries I've found to be valuable to cancel or iframe out of. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching. I might post more Nightreign content in the future, but who knows? Maybe I might record full runs with my friends and I in the future and post them here, once I learn how to actually dodge things, or just funny moments with my friends and I. I typically play Scholar and Wilder, so I might make a Wilder Buckler parry video in the future if people show interest. But that's enough from me. Thank you once again for watching, and have a great rest of your day.